Well, having just had All Saints' Day on Sunday, today we have the commemoration of all the saints and martyrs of the Anglican Communion. We get our own day in the week following All Saints' Day to think about our particular people that we remember. You may know that sometime in the 16th century, the Anglican Communion, the Anglican movement, kind of got out of the saint-making business. Until then, as part of the global Catholic with a little c Christian church, we had made saints in varying ways. There were times when local people would say this person was a really, really, really good person, and we remember this person, but no one outside that little local area remembered that person. There were times when a diocese would say this person was plainly a saint. We will remember this person on a particular day, but the rest of the church didn't. Nowadays, in the Catholic Church, there's a highly legalized and complicated process by which someone becomes a saint. In the Eastern Orthodox Church, someone becomes a saint in a more sort of earthy way. They bury you, and some years later they dig you up, and if your body has not disintegrated, they decide you were a saint. I don't know whether that's a good system or not, but that's what they do. We, on the other hand, were left without much of a saint-making system. There were a few people early on who were made saints because of us rather than through any action of ours. There were those who were on the Catholic side who were martyred by Protestants. There were Protestants who were martyred by Catholics. And so to this day there are Catholic saints who are martyrs of the Anglican Communion because they were martyred by Anglicans. We didn't really necessarily want to leave it at that, though, because there have been other people we thought were worth remembering since. We have a deep history of honorable people who had deep holiness in their lives, and people from the earliest times in the church in England with names like Kentigern and Etheldreda and people, complicated, distant past, and yet it's not all complicated or in so far distant in the past. What I want to suggest to you is that we ended up, probably inadvertently, probably without really meaning to, with a pretty good system of deciding who it is that we remember. And that is, we will take in all comers from all sides. If you look down the window here, you'll see people who are Anglican, people who were pre-Anglican, and people who are post-Anglican. We think that Dietrich Bonhoeffer was a pretty good guy. We think that Maximilian Kolbe, you'll see him come up in this month of saints that I'm sending out to you, who was a Catholic priest who was martyred in Auschwitz, is a pretty good guy. We remember the founders of the Quaker movement. We remember the founders of the Methodist movement, even though they were leaving us in a way. We remember those from a variety of denominations who were involved in the fight against slavery in the 19th century. Some were Anglicans, but some were not. We remember fairly recent people like William Temple, who was an Archbishop of Canterbury in the 1940s, who wrote extensively on the issue of what it meant to be a Christian in a world where violence was so prevalent. We remember people who had very little connection to us at all, like Kateri Tekakwitha. I will never be able to pronounce her name. She was a Native American woman who was an early convert to Christianity among the French missionaries in the Midwest, who lived a very short and rather painful life, but who was deeply devoted, and who we remember to this day in our own calendar. We have found ways to bring in all manner of people who had evidence of the action of God in their lives, and that ultimately is where all of this connects and brings us to this place and what we do in this place on Sunday and Wednesday and every other time we come here. And that is to say, we observe around us the action of God in our own lives and in the lives of others. Why would we ever want to stop doing that? Why would we ever want to imagine that that is finished and can't happen any longer? Surely you and I should be looking around us all the time for the signs of the presence and action of God in our own lives and in the lives of other people we meet. If the saints tell us nothing else, they tell us that God continues to be engaged with humanity. God continues to act in the world powerfully right now and right here. Why would we not want to be looking for that? So today, we as Anglicans, who may not make saints in exactly the way that our Roman brothers and sisters do anymore, nonetheless give thanks to God for all of those lives of heroic virtue, all of those lives of conspicuous holiness, all of those lives in which the power of God has been evident. We thank God for all of them, that they encourage us, that they poke us just a little bit to be more caring, more giving, more forgiving, more loving, more merciful in our lives. Who will be next? Let us be looking for whoever will be the next person of heroic virtue to arise among us. Amen.